remember I spoke once to a father from Skver or somewhere else, I don't remember. His daughter was going through something. I spoke for a long time on the phone. I tell him, did you ever tell your daughter you love her? He tells me no. He's 18 years old. Never. Like, spend time with her, like, to give them rachmanas, you know? These are kids. Kids are not bad. They're searching for a derech. They're good. Let's dan them l'kav schus. Let's look at a kid. Look how beautiful they are. So they have questions. Open up. You don't know the answers. Look for answers yourself. I don't know. Tell the kid, I don't know the answers. Let's have a relationship. It's okay.
Welcome back to an incredible episode of Inspiration for the Nation. I am Yaakov Linger, and stick around to the very end because I have some personal news that I want to share with you about my life. So stick around till the very end to hear that. But you're going to be so inspired from, cliche word over there, but you're going to be so inspired from Rabbi Wanga. He's someone who grew up in Tzfas, this mystical city. He grew up there, which is pretty unique, and he kind of left from there, kind of found himself, and he found himself back in the most mystical city in the world, and he is helping guys who are trying to find themselves, who are struggling and just finding who they are. This episode is in memory of Shimon David ben Yaakov Shlomo, as well as Miriam Sarah bas Yaakov Moshe. You should know that I just read that off. I know it by heart, but I don't know. Every time I read their names, I'm always making sure that I don't mess it up because the Bens are pretty similar. Okay, this episode is also powered by the incredible podcast that Yaakov Linger listens to. What do I listen to? I will share with you the podcast, Good Faith Effort, spoiler alert, and you'll also hear about the book that we've helped sell over 615 books by Dr. Z, and you're going to hear why you should buy a book if you haven't yet. Here we go. Let's get into the incredible truthfulness of Tzfat with Rabbi Wanga. Incredible story. Here we go. I'm Yaakov Linger, and you're listening to Inspiration for the Nation. Here we are with Avram Shimon Weingot, who I just butchered your name, but now that I have it, that's great. All the way from Tzfas. So yes. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
There's a lot to talk about, the fact that you're a Shiva of incredible Yeshiva, and to talk about Hasidus and Kabbalah. There's a lot. But I want to start off with your journey. Where did you grow up, and what was your childhood like?
All right, so I was born and raised in Tzfat. My parents are American, and that's why my English, obviously that's the question. And I grew up in Tzfat. Where do I start?
Well, that already was probably unnatural. How many fluently English speaking Americans are?
No, there was no. When I grew up in Tzfat, there was nothing there.
Right.
Nothing there. Friday night, we davened in the Chernobyl shul. Friday night, we would have to stand outside for a minyan. Every Friday night. There's no tourism. There was no tzimmers. There was no yeshivas and seminaries coming to Tzfat. It was quiet. I remember at night, wild boars walking by, cows. Very, very, very quiet. The last 20 years, that's when, more already, but that's when Tzfat really started picking up. But growing up, it was a very simple city, and my father, who lived here in New York, learned by Rabbi Shlomo. Freifeld. And he wanted to stay by his Rebbe. Still say with his Rebbe. Rabbi Shlomo were very, very close. My mother wanted to live in Eretz Yisrael. So my father said, if it's Eretz Yisrael, it's Tzfas, because my Zayda's uncle was the Rav of Tzfas, Rav Weingot. During 1948, he was the based in there. And there was a house there, a churva, a ruin, mamash a ruin. And that's where they bought it, and that's where we lived, that's where we started. And in 1992, my father started the yeshiva.
What's the name of yeshiva?
Shalom Rav.
Okay.
Started in Yerushalayim. 1 year he was in Yerushalayim, then he moved to Tzfas. And when he started, it was for Baalei Tshuva more, because Tzfas is a capital of searchers. It's even as a kid, there's constantly people coming by Shabbosim and during the week, whether it's hippies or doctors or people that are traveling to India looking for Kabbalah and mysticism. And the yeshiva that's where he started the yeshiva. I came back later to Tzfat in 2001. And that's when we started the yeshiva also for kids from frum backgrounds. Because today, people searching for Baal Tshuvas used to be the thing. Today, it's more about tshuvas from within. So kids that grow up in religious families, whether it's in Lakewood or in Brooklyn or in England or in wherever it is, and leave everything. And then when they want to come back, so where do you come back to? Like, where do you get absorbed back into the system, so to speak? Like, they're traumatized from shuls, from rabbis, from all kinds of these. And Tzfat is, Baruch Hashem, a very natural place for them to feel good and unjudged. And that's their kind of like bouncing board to start coming back.
I think you're in a obviously very understanding position to be the Yeshiva there now, and to deal with guys that maybe struggled, they grew up from, and just trying to find their place now because you yourself have some form
Correct.
of a story in that world.
Right. So I'm oldest of 9 kids.
Well, first of all, just before we get into whatever you're about to say, what's that like being one of 9? My mother's one of 9, but like, what's being one of 9? Was it normal for you?
I wouldn't know anything else.
Right. Okay. You're just like used to it. Yeah. 1 of
9. My wife is one of 11.
Wow. Okay. You're like the small family. Oh my gosh. 9.
In Eretz Yisrael, Baruch Hashem. Very special. My memories of my childhood are very good as a family, Baruch Hashem. Very, very good. I struggled as a child with Yiddishkeit, meaning I went to Ger Cheder, so like Ger, Chassidish, in Chatzol. It's a little town next to Tzfat. And since I remember myself, I kind of never remember seeing eye to eye with how like people around me saw religion, and the main thing that I remember is I wasn't seeing fun, because I guess since I know this since like in my nature that, and I understand this today, that we're all meant to have a lot of fun. We're here to have fun. I mean, in the words of the Mesilas Yesharim, Adam nivra li taneg al Hashem, we're here to have mamish fun. And I wasn't seeing fun and I wasn't seeing joy, and I was a very strong searcher, even though, in class I was, Baruch Hashem, straight A as far as tests, but as far as interest. And then I went to Yeshiva, I went to Slobodka in Bnei Brak. It was a good yeshiva, but I didn't want to be there. I had so many questions and so many things that I wanted to know. I wanted to know why I'm doing everything. I wanted to be connected to everything all the time. I kind of like knew that that's the way it should be, and if it wasn't, it didn't make sense to me. So it was a painful journey. Obviously I'm the Bechor of 9 and strong, and me trailblazing my own way. It wasn't so simple.
Yeah, I'm sure for your parents it was hard. For
my parents, it was hard. And I must say that looking back, I thank them tremendously. They stuck with me with my journey. I remember my mother, when I was running around, would just like it didn't make a difference. Like, she would just call and send me little books or little things. It was just like the relationship went on. And this is kind of like today when I deal with parents and with kids and families. This has shown me the main value of keeping the relationship. If I could say that the most important thing is focusing on the relationship, not as the kid good or not good. Because every teenager could go through his searching and his becoming, and if during that time there's the distancing between the family and him, so one day when he's done with his dance, he won't be able to go back to them. It's not going to be a safe ground. But if they were there with him, then that's the most important thing, to keep the relationship at all costs. And I know today that the neshamas are deep, and every neshama really finds his way, even the neshamas that look like they don't. Sometimes they just can't admit it. They have nowhere to go back to. But if a person has, if their relationships are kept intact, when they go back, they'll have a safe place to land, so to speak.
So interesting. Okay, so I'm curious, the idea that you said that, we're here to have fun, and then you go and just to speak bluntly, you went off the derech. You probably had a lot more fun there. No, like what? Why not stay there? I guess. No, it looks, at least looks fun. I don't know.
Absolutely. But this is what brought my awareness to mature and immature type of life. One of the ways of defining maturity, I guess, is the ability to give up a short-term pleasure for a long-term goal. And go explain that to a child. Here's $100 tomorrow or a candy now.
Right.
So
I saw on TikTok, they all like do experiments with the kids. Like, if you don't eat this candy now, after a minute, I'll give you 2. They all eat the candy, you know, unless they're older and they're like 8 years old, they could like calculate. But like all 5-year-old, they eat it.
So that's the ability to have this process and understand that life is a process, and that immature fun, yes, it's fun, but it's like chocolate fun that gives me a stomachache afterwards. It's not real fun. So at the beginning, you eat the chocolate because it's there. But then you realize what's fun, that there's quality of life, there's quality of people, there's quality relationships. And the most important thing is as a creator to the world. And this life is very real. So when you know that, your fun, concept of fun changes. Today I have a lot of fun. Meaning I hopefully live a day that I try to have fun all day.
Okay, I'm going to get more into that because I want to have more fun. So maybe you can teach me your ways. But I'm curious. So, okay, so you grow up in Tzfas and it's, you know, you have questions and how things work, and I guess the system, I guess maybe it sounds like it felt very rigid and just like more about the rules. It felt like, at least, more about rules than...
Yeah, it felt like external, like today I understand that religion is an extremely important part of Yiddishkeit. And I understand also that if it's taken alone, it could be probably the worst thing that exists. Meaning the Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Peiches, the Gemara Shabbos there says that the Torah could be Samachaim or Samamavis. That means that people take it to the right or to the left. And it's kind of like scary to realize that this beautiful Torah, like foundation of our whole, what we are, could be the worst thing that ever happened to us if we don't use it right. Rashi there says on the spot that if a person doesn't really want to understand the secret of the Torah and use it like it's his right hand, they're just using it like it's their left hand casually. And that's, in that case, the Torah becomes a poison to them, because it's like, oh, I'm religious, oh, I'm good, I'm okay. And then like, no, we're here to grow, we're here to evolve, we're here to...
In your search for, you know, fun outside of from life, is there any part of you that you felt that you discovered that you didn't know before, or not necessarily?
It's a great question. I think I discovered a lot of the illusion of fun, meaning I popped all my illusions. And I realized that if to the naked eye, to the immature eye, that looks fun, when you actually go through it, this type of relationship is actually a pain. It's not fun. So, not believing anybody else around me, I tried it myself and I realized it. So it's kind of like from the dark, you learn the light. But I learned from there that many things that appear beautiful and attractive, and many relationships that appear to be the source of fun, are actually the source of tremendous anxiety and lying and just a crooked way of life.
So what got you, is there a moment that like got you back? Like,
well, there actually was a moment. I had a moment. This is, so when I was from age 16 to 21, I was off, living in apartments in Yerushalayim, and Sundays kind of going home. In between, like for example, when I was 18, I went to Or Sameach. I went to check in Or Sameach.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like,
well, you're searching.
I was such a searcher. I mean, like one night I would be in the bar, and then at the end of the night I would be at the Kaisel. It's like one night. It's years.
You sound like a Yeshiva guy technically.
It's inside. We're in a Shama and a Guf where he is searching. Today I understand myself. But wait, what was it? The
moment. The moment.
So I was living in New York, here in Long Beach with some friends, working here, and it was Friday night, one of those, wild nights, and it was a very intense night for me. And I remember we were just sitting there. It was Friday night, and there was trance music blasting, and I had this. I could see it now. Like my whole life, I saw like 2 universes in front of me, 2 round universes. And one was the universe that I was pushing for and creating and going out of my way, like full speed. And one was like the universe that the creator was planning for me. It wasn't a logic. It was beyond. I was just sat there crying and crying and crying the whole night. It was beyond my scope to understand what was happening, but I was searching so intensely and I hit something. There was a very strong moment. Starting from that moment, I realized I had to go back to Israel. So I was living in this house with 2 roommates, and I was telling them, like, one is a day trader, one is working somewhere else. I was working in this firm, and it's like, the guys, we have to leave America. Something's happening. This is 2001. So it was the summer. So they said, okay. I told them I'm going back to Israel. So the apartment broke up, and we said, okay, the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to LA. My roommate was from LA. I was going to give him my car when we get there, and I'm going back. I never wanted to come back to America. I was like in a real... My opening up to Yiddishkeit was very much like not just seeing like my life, what my life was, but like what the world, how the world wanted to be. Can't explain it. It was very deep. And I was like drawing pictures of like things happening in America. I draw pictures of the Twin Towers. And we left New York September 9th, 2001. I remember It was Motzei Shabbos. We drove out of the Battery Tunnel. And I didn't mean it figuratively, but I never wanted to come back to America. That's when I started growing my beard. And that's when I was like really like the contrast of how it hit me was so strong. And I said like from the window, goodbye Twin Towers. I never want to see you again. Like I didn't mean it. Like you remember the Twin Towers was like an icon here.
Right.
We saw it everywhere. And 2 days later we were in Texas and
wow.
So it was like my life was very much going through a very, very strong change then. And then I went back to Israel and I went straight back to my father's yeshiva. We had a cave under the shul in Chernobyl.
Only in Tzfas, you'd be like, yeah, we had a cave. Like, what?
So under the Beis Medrash is a cave.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually 7 rooms. It's like 7 caves, kind of like. We fixed it up, and I moved into one of these kevalach. I was there for a couple of years. And that's when I started, like, I guess since I was there, like, people like neshamas started coming, like teenagers that weren't just Baal Tshuvas from homes, and a lot of Hasidish kids, and a lot of just Hasidish, Lakewood, England, Gateshead, wherever it is, started gravitating to Tzfat, and yeah.
Did you ever look back and be like, maybe, like, what would have happened if I did stay on that path that I was on? Or
I couldn't. I can't explain it. It wasn't a choice. Where I was, I had to leave. Mm-hmm. It was toxic. It was poisonous. It wasn't real for me. I can't live a life that's not real. I can't.
Wow.
It wasn't a choice. I'm going to leave. It was like, get me out of here. My whole fabric.
Do you feel like from your experience with guys in yeshiva, or just people in general, that when they're in those environments where I guess they're not doing their true self, do they really have the same desire that you have? Or is it that you just had more clarity? Or no, some people want to be, even though they know it's bad for them, but they want to be in that bad place.
I don't want to be in a bad place. It doesn't matter. It's interesting. You know, I object to the term off the derech. I don't like using that term.
Yeah, sorry. I knew when I said
because
it. Oh my gosh.
I'll explain to you why.
Yeah.
Because I believe that today where's the derech? Where's the derech? The kids are searching for a derech. They're not off any derech. If anyone is off the derech, it may be the system. Mm-hmm. But the kids are searching. They're not coming from a place of evil. A kid grows up in a house and he wants to be bad. No. He grows up in a house and the neshama is good. He wants to be good. He wants to see a real picture of life, and things don't make sense. Kids are honest. They're not biased to anything in the world. They're honest. Today, I try to, I speak to parents all the time. I tell them, speak to your kids, listen to your kids, listen to your children. They're not children. They're gigantic people. They're just in tiny bodies. In 20 years, you'll chap. But there's no such thing as a little person. They're big. They have real questions. Questions of kids are very big. If they're not answered, the worst thing happened. The kid answers his own question. You should have an open channel that the kids could talk, that the kids could relationship, friendly.
Mm-hmm. I guess, could you describe to someone who doesn't know what... We're going to talk about yeshiva. It's very soon. I mean, we're already starting to talk about it, but like, I want to like delve into Tzfat, like, because for sure the first person I ever interviewed that's from there and grew up there and lives there. And I always say Eretz Yisrael, there's something magical about it, which is obvious, but there's clearly something like palpable about Tzfas, that like there's a magic there. Well, I don't know if it's the Shabbos or just during the week. I don't know. Could we get into that and like delve into the magic there?
Yeah, you could definitely call Tzfat magical. And therefore it attracted all the mystics from Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, who was the mystic of all mystics, the Arizal, and everyone that followed in their ways. Tzfat is one of the 4 Arei Kodesh, which stem from the Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, from Hashem's name. These Yerushalayim, Tveria, Tzfas, and Hebron, which are parallel to the 4 elements.
Right. Tzfas is ear.
Tzfas is ear.
Right.
So ear is ruchnius. So spiritual. It's a city of spirituality. As a matter of fact, there's really nothing going on in the city. Not a beach, not a mall, no major business center, no coffee shop, nothing there really. It's mamish, a place of kula ruchnius. And it's funny that the product of Tzfas is Kabbalah Shabbos. Because the last thing to add to the Siddur is Kabbalah Shabbos. No, who added anything to the Siddur? It was accepted Kimad by all of Am Yisrael. And in a deep sense, Tzfas is a city of receiving the Shabbos. It's Kabbalah, also Kabbalah Shabbos, but it's the time of receiving the Shabbos, which is the Geula. The Kabbalah, the Chachma of Kabbalah that the Arizal expanded on, which is the Chachma of the Reb Shimon, that's there to bring the world to Shabbos, to Geula. So Tzfas is the whole mission, so to speak, or energy of Tzfas is that mysticism that prepares the world for redemption. And that's why that time of Friday to Shabbos, going between the 6 and the 7, Olam Haza, Olam Haba, that time of Kabbalah Shabbos is the primal concept of Tzfat.
And I was there, and I was talking to you before of like, I was there for next Shabbos Chanukah. I went there, and I went to the Yeshiva, the shul there, and I'm like, I don't remember seeing you, but you said that you're the one davening, you're in the talis, you don't even see your face there.
Right. I daven with the talis on my head.
Are you in another world when that happens?
I try to be in my world. That's the only world I try to be in. Shlomo Carlebach speaks about the Munkache passport. I don't know if you've ever heard that story.
Please say it.
But I can't say Shlomo Carlebach's story. You can't repeat Shlomo's story. But what you could say is that when a Yid puts a talis on his head, then he goes into his zone, into his privacy. The Holy Rizhiner, once one of his talmidim came to him, who was a merchant, a businessman. He said, Rabbi, I love to daven with you. I can't daven with you. I have to go on business. I have to travel. The Rebbe told him, wherever you put your talis over your head, you're mambas medrash. You go into the zone, that's it. And
wow. Okay, so and we're going to get back to Tzfas talk, but like, tell me about the yeshiva, the guys. I mean, there's a lot of great artists that came out of yeshiva. I've got a lot of great people that came out of yeshiva. Like, what's the guy who comes in yeshiva? What are they like? What are they actually looking for? And like, what's the goal to help them get to?
So if a guy is gravitated to Tzfas, there's naturally something more artistic or musical or spiritual about him. Otherwise, there's like 1,000 yeshivas in Yerushalayim, which most of the guys go to. We had this chus to host many musicians that came through Tzfas.
Is it taboo to say who?
Oh, well, actually, the song Baruch Hashem by Zusha?
Yeah.
That song is a Shalom Rav song.
Really?
Yeah, Baruch Hashem, yeah, it was for sure. It was made
really?
in Yeshiva. Tzvi Levin from Pumpadisa, who also learned in Yeshiva, called me up one day and he said they want to put out the song. I said, for sure. Anything to put out Baruch Hashem, no question. It's a place, that's the type of place. So, guitars, doing Sher guitars, and this guy's music, and it's Tzfat.
So the guys, what are the guys who come in? What are they like looking for? Or what's the goal? Like
looking to get it together in Yiddishkeit, looking to build a relationship with Hashem, to get to dveikus with Hashem.
How does the yeshiva? How do you provide that connection?
So by the learnings that our shiurim are geared towards. Also more interactive, more dynamic, type of more questions and answers of where the person is. And we also learn things that bring a person to higher states of awareness, not just Gemara, not just Mishnayos, but also Chassidus, and also if a person is Shaykh, a little bit Pnimius, a little Kabbalah. Today, the cure of the world is depth, because everyone wants to feel high. The whole world wants to feel high. But the answer is you have to be high. To feel high is something you could feel, but to be high, there's a way to mamish become elevated, to become holy, to become godly. That's what we're here for. And when a person chaps at avodas Hashem, it's not just a bunch of random mitzvahs. It's actually a process of evolution, of becoming. You're high. You're learning things that there's a tachlis. There's a reason for everything you're learning. You're learning things and you apply them to your life. When we learn in Yanim, we focus a lot on midot, tikkun midot, but not in the Musar sense, meaning not necessarily bashing the bad, but really bringing godliness into our life and learning about how does Hashem want us to behave, like Talmud Dvorah. I'm sure you know the Sefer Talmud Dvorah by the Ramak. So this is like this is a book that's based on the deepest Kabbalah, but in one word, it's let's become gods, let's become godly, let's become superhuman, let's become unbelievable. So we try to learn more of these inyanim. And Tzfat itself, the truth is that most of the ashpa I don't take credit for. The guys that change in Yeshiva, I think that most of the magic is from the city. I think that the city is a mokom kadosh, kadosh, kadosh. I encourage guys to go down to the Arizal as much as possible, whether it's to the mikveh, to the kever, to build a relationship with the Ari himself. When I came back to Tzfas, one of the biggest things that kept me going was the Ari. I used to go down there for hours and just...
But I'm just asking, maybe this is my like Litvish cap on, but like you're going to a place that I know he's buried there, but like what else? What's going on over there? The mikvah, but like, okay, I could go once every few years, but like what's happening? What was happening there that you felt more connected?
Right. So it's interesting because going to Kibbutz Tzadikim is an interesting topic. So in the Shulchan Aruch, in the Hilchas Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Hashanah, that we're discussed is going to Kvarim. So there's a minute to go to Kvarim, Rosh Hashanah. We all go to Kvarim. And by Chasidim and Mekubalim, the Kibbutz Tzadikim took a very special part. And the Arizal teaches that when a person leaves this world, it's not his entire soul that leaves. There's a part of his nefesh that stays in the kever. And as a matter of fact, when you go to a kever, you're speaking to a live tzaddik. The fact that his body's not there doesn't make it. He's a live tzaddik. And like the Gemara says in Saita, when Kalev ben Yefuna went up with the Meraglim, so he went up to Kivrei Avis. He went to Maras HaMachpelah. And he davened there. And what was his davening? The Gemara says, Avotai, my fathers, Bakashu alai rachmim, ask for mercy. Sha'anatzel me'atzat meraglim. So you're speaking to the tzaddik, and you tell the tzaddik, please ask the Creator for mercy for me, to be saved from this conspiracy of the Meraglim. And that's what we do. That's what the Zohar encourages very much, to go to Kibbutz Tzadikim, to go to speak to the tzaddik. They're alive. They're mamash alive. In the same way when I go to the tzaddik, if Baba Sali was here, or the Lubavitch Rebbe, or Rivnitzer Rebbe, Lo Mashana Hu, you go to him. Why am I going to him? Why am I not speaking to Hashem? Because the tzaddik can be Ma'or Rachmim B'Hashem. Same Moshe Ritterman was Ma'or the Gilon Midas Rachmim and the entire Am Yisrael. So when you go to the tzaddik, you tell him, Holy tzaddik, I need Rachmim. I don't know how, but this is where I am. And I'm trying, I'm speaking to the Creator, I'm trying to awaken more Rachamim, but you know how to awaken Rachamim. I don't know how to awaken Rachamim. Who knew how to go up to Shemayim and awaken the Yud Gimel Midas? Hashem, Kalachum V'Chanun. Oh no, Moshe Rabbeinu. So we go to these tzaddikim, and it's a very, very big avoida today, especially in today's world, because we need a lot of help. People need a lot of rachmim in their life. And that's what Kibbutz Tzadikim, you see in Eretz Yisrael, has taken a tremendous, also in the world, Karstir and Reb Nachman.
Right, yeah. People
Morocco,
are traveling all the time.
Morocco is like the new Ukraine.
Right.
And it's not just, spiritual traveling, it's connection to Tzadikim. So if you can make a relationship with this, I encourage them very much to make relationships with Tzadikim. So I'm saying a lot of it's Tzfat. Tzfat's magic. Tzfat's Ir Miklat, according to the Rishonim. It's one of the Ir Miklats. That means Ir Miklat is a city that kind of like absorbs. Nebuch, a person kills someone by mistake. Nebuch, no Yid should have to know this. But he doesn't have room for himself. He's Pater. Fine, that's a self. But he killed someone. So he needs to go to a place that could absorb him, that could contain him, that koyhanim, they're ones that draw down the life and have extra life. So Tzfas has that koyach to mamish contain all these neshamas, and that's why Tzfas is all these neshamas just coming through.
Okay, we'll be right back to this week's episode, and stick around because, like I always say, and it's true, you're getting to the best parts yet. But first, let me tell you about the Good Faith Effort podcast. That is the podcast that Yaakov Linger, that I personally listen to. I produce a lot of podcasts. We have over 5 podcasts and 3 in the works, and I sometimes need to veg out. I need to listen. I need to be entertained. I need to be inspired. I need to find it. I need to find it somewhere. And I can't go ahead and listen to Kosher Money because I'm in the background. I'm working it out. It's not as interesting to me because I kind of know what's coming up. But with Good Faith Effort, I personally have nothing to do with. A little jealous of how awesome it is. B'nai Zion's incredible org and they're putting out, together with Soul Shop, Good Faith Effort with Rabbi Dr. Ari Lamb, who's been in the news lately because I don't know if you saw what Jamie Foxx said, and Rabbi Lamb went on one of the Ringers podcasts to discuss it. He's awesome. He's definitely a personality, and he's definitely the reason why I listen to Good Faith. He's the host, and he's great. I spoke about the episode that I listened to with Rainn Wilson, incredible. And lately, the last episode I listened to with, I don't know how to say his name, Seth Rugavoy. I don't know how to pronounce names. I don't know if you noticed that about me by now. And this episode is about the spirituality of Bob Dylan. I spoke to Benny Friedman and Rabbi Manis Friedman. Rabbi Manis has a relationship with Bob Dylan, and there is way more Jewish value, Jewish culture, Jewish faith in Bob Dylan's music than you've anticipated. And Seth is essentially the guru on Bob Dylan. He knows him. I would say he's the expert. He wrote a book on him. Fascinating. And Rabbi Dr. Ari sits down with him and just goes through it. A very enjoyable listen. Different, very different. And that's what I love about his podcast, his episodes. The latest one, I didn't listen to it yet. It's about the Black intellectual tradition, which he brings on Angel Adams Parham, award-winning author, professor, and leading scholar. But basically, every episode is very different. You never know what you're going to get, particularly this episode about Bob Dylan. I just love how Reb Ari is bringing in Bob Dylan and Yiddishkeit, and it is fused so much and so well, and it's done well in this book. But in this episode, it's just a fun listen. You learn a lot, and you should go ahead and check out the Good Faith Ever podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, wherever you go, wherever you listen. You could go ahead and check them out. You're gonna enjoy it as much as I will, as much as I do, I should say. Now back to this week's episode. Something I want to bring up is your fantastic song, and we'll link it in the show notes for anyone to listen to it. Tell us about it, what sparked it, why did you do it, and what it led to.
Okay, so I'm not a musician. I mean, I play guitar. I started playing guitar more after, but a couple of years ago, we were in Uman. I go to Uman every year. I try to. And it was like the night before Rosh Hashanah, and guys like met me. They said, like, we need a shir, we need to get inspired. So I said, okay, come to the house. We were sitting there in a room about this size, small room, maybe 30, 40 people.
Wow.
There was like, I don't know, 100 bottles of vodka on the table in my mind, like 50 guitars. Like the whole room was full of musicians and like real Uman festival vibes. And we were learning Zohar. And we were learning about Rosh Hashanah, about, trying to explain a little bit the high concepts of what's revealed in this day, a very high revelation of the Keter, of the mercy of Hashem. And I said, that in the Zohar, it's called Adam Kadmon. Adam Kadmon is the so to speak, the primal revelation, very high revelation in the creation. It's a stage. And I started like saying it, and I said, Adam Kadmon. And next to me was Didi from the Schlepping Nachas. He was on ukulele, and they right away started playing it. So it just became a song, and we were singing it all night. And I felt that I wanted to record it because it's a song that has way more questions than answers. You're not going to understand anything from the song, just tons of questions. So it's like kind of like a Kabbalah bomb. Like these 5 words are very, very deep. It's the 5 worlds. What that means.
Yeah, what does that mean? I mean, I know we, don't have 17 hours here. The 5 worlds, that sounds very intriguing. Could do like a whole side podcast series on this, probably.
The Arizal explains that all this is from the Zohar, but the Zohar was written very cryptic. The Zohar was written in a very traumatic generation, destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. Reb Shimon wrote the Zohar, and he wrote it not for his generation. Meaning, Rabbi Abba, who wrote the Zohar, asked Reb Shimon, who am I writing this for? It's like, you're writing it in like Rosh Tevis and Gematrias, like Keilu, like it's so hidden. Who's going to understand this? And he said, I'm not writing this for anyone of our generation. This is for the last generation before Mashiach. They're going to need this. B'haib Zohar, yipkun be min galuta berachameh. With this Sefer Zohar, that's how Am Yisrael will exit the Galut through Rachamim, through mercy. So really till the time of the Arizal, the Zohar was very hidden. 1 or 2 people in a generation had it, maybe Rashi, the Ramban, different. And the Arizal, even though the Zohar was discovered before him chronologically, but the Ramak wrote Pirush on Desire, but really to unlock the system of how to understand desire. That was the gift of the Ari. The Arizal through Gilui Eliyahu. And the Arizal explained that there's really, he brought it down to the 5 worlds, 5 stages of creation. And the first stage is as if the Creator creates everything, let's call it in stage 1. Then from stage 1, it breaks. And then that's stage 2. And stage 3 is a fixing. So an Adam Kadmon is like the primal revelation, where the Creator reveals many revelations, so to speak. From these revelations, it's called in the world of the Medrash, Boneh Olamot Umachrivan. I'm sure you heard about this, that the Creator was creating and destroying worlds before. What is this?
Yeah, it sounds scary.
Creating, destroying.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to be destroyed.
So the Arizal explains that these were purpose. This is demolition for the purpose of construction. Soter al manat livnot. And they're broken, means they're worlds that were taken out of the unity of God for the purpose of man then restoring them and revealing the unity in them and creating a world called Olam HaTzilut. Olam HaTzilut is a very deep world, and that's where our mitzvot are.
There's
that's
number
where
4?
It's...
You said 3.
Right, so it's Adam Kadmon comes out first, and then there's like lights that come out of Adam Kadmon in the language of Chazal, the Arizal, from his eyes. Like Hashem creates the worlds in the shape of a human. And it's only through our human form that we can understand these forms. So a very practical, one of the practical ways to understand it is through davening. What is davening? Tefillah, so it's Rav Shachas. But if you look at the word litpalel, you know what the word mitpalel means? Tefillah. What does the word tefillah mean? Tefillah means connection. Hatofel klei cheres, in the Mishnah, a connector, people that breaks. So lehitpalel is to connect. Connect what? Connect it to where? And who is connecting it? So therefore, in the human experience, I have, in the understanding of Kabbalah, there's, let's say, your essence, and then your essence will have 3 dimensions on top of it. Your thoughts, your speech, and your action. It's not you. You think, you speak, you act. You're inner to them. So in these 3 dimensions of thought, speech, and action, you experience the multiplicity, the hiddenness of God. Over here, you don't see the unity of God. And the time of tefillah is a time where you're standing, if you notice what you do in Shemona Esrei, is you take 3 steps back and 3 steps forward, and then you stand still like you're in Shabbos. What is that? That's a 3 steps back is out of those 3 dimensions of Bria, Yetzirah. So you're going out of the separation and standing totally in the unity. Shemona Esrei is the same din of Shabbos. No machshava dibur ma'aseh. Shemona Esrei is a mini Shabbos, the Baal HaTanya calls it.
Interesting.
It's an island of Shabbos during the week. And what you're doing in that moment when you're standing in the presence of the Creator is you're saying, Creator of the world, I know through my neshama, through my whatever it is, that you're one and everything is one and the whole world is one and you're good and your goodness is creating everything. My experience in this world of multiplicity is I'm experiencing separation, pain, duality, darkness, etc. I understand that this is you're choosing to reveal these broken worlds. But I am made out of, the Adam is made out of all 5 worlds. Adam Kadmon, Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and all of them. So that means I'm the only thing that's made out of also the broken worlds and also the fixed worlds. And therefore, inside of me, I could say, hey, this person is sick, but I know that you're good. I'm going to ask you for your goodness that I know exists to connect to this thing, to this brokenness, and reveal the unity of Hashem in all the worlds.
So you're saying it's essential for just development and just life to have that brokenness that's part of...
To experience the reality that we're experiencing is the brokenness reality. But the reality that we know is that everything is good. Hashem is good. Thank you, Hashem. Adula Adonai Kitov, Kilulam Chazdov. It's Gevard. So we are the ones that could connect the worlds, that could request from the Creator to reveal His mercy and His rachmim upon the entire creation, and to reveal that Bayom Ahu Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad.
Wow. Do you have a lot of like people passing by Tzfas, whether Jewish or not Jewish? They're coming and they're like, tell us about Kabbalah. Absolutely. So like, what do you say to that? And even here, you're saying a lot of things that like I really have to think about because I'm just not so programmed to think about these things. And I'm sure you're lightening it because Kabbalah is extremely deep. But like, what do you say to someone who wants to know more about Kabbalah? Like,
I encourage investing very much in a relationship with the Creator. Meaning, in our generation, it's very, very important. And the Chidushim writes this, and all the Sefer Tzaddikim write this, that at the end of the day, the confusion is going to be so strong that you won't be able to save yourself at all, only from some connection to the secrets of the Torah. That means that everyone today must be connected, in some form, to a depth of godliness. Because what is this God that we're serving? We can't, if it's superficial and it's outside and it's religion, you're sitting on a time bomb. It's a matter of time. It has to be driven from depth, from wisdom, from connection. And if a person comes to learn Kabbalah, that's great. So learning Kabbalah means that you want to know the secret of the Torah. If you just want to know like stam magic and this, then it's nothing. But if you want this, the depth of it is create a relationship with your Creator. And if you create a relationship with Him, then Hashem will show you His secrets in the Chumash. And if you don't have a relationship with Him, you look in the Eitz Chaim and you'll see nothing. You look in the Zohar, you see everything the opposite.
So you're saying you need that foundation.
Sod Adonai le'yire'av ubrito le'odiyam. The secret of Hashem goes to those who fear Him, and Hashem is His bris. It's not for the smart. B'chal, Torah has nothing to do with brains. Nothing to do with brains. It has to do with the connection to Hashem and being in a bris with Hashem. It's interesting. Shmiras HaBris, which is a fascinating topic, you normally is looked at as like, watch your eyes, which is important. No question. No question. No question. But that's not the main Shmiras HaBris. The main Shmiras HaBris, meaning that's the Sur Mirah. That's like, but the main Shmiras HaBris is realizing that we're in a bris with Hashem. We're in a treaty, in an infinite pat with a Creator that swore to treat us different than everyone. Everyone. Hinei anochi koret brit. Neged kol amcha eseh niflot. Asher lo nivru b'chol haaretz u'b'chol hagoyim. And we took upon ourselves to treat Him different than anything. The life of a Yid is if you're serving Hashem, you're reversing your entire nature. The way you argue, the way you talk, the way you eat, what you like, every part of your nature is upgraded if you're serving Hashem right.
I want to go back to talking about Yeshiva. Like, what do you feel is the biggest challenge today that the guys who are coming to Yeshiva, what are they struggling with the most?
Well, the external challenges are internet and drugs and alcohol, and that's the external challenges. But I believe that that what's missing is relationship. That's what they're missing.
With each other, with God, with themselves,
with Yiddishkeit, with someone positive in Yiddishkeit. That's what eventually brings a person back. It's not that they discovered a way to fight all the evil. No one does. Is that they found a meaningful relationship. It's the same thing with addiction. I studied addiction. I'm a life coach. I studied life coaching and addictions for a year. So 12 steps. But to bring it down, the whole thing down to one thing, it's about relationship. If you want someone to really get over a wrong relationship, which is an addiction, they could only do it with a positive relationship. So practically would be to keep someone in, no matter how little they're involved, to keep them in the relationship. Rav Nachman teaches us to look at the good point in someone, the nekuda tov in someone. It's a fascinating concept. You have a guy, he's total, crook, selfish, whatever you want to look at. Like, you turn him around from each side. There's nothing good to see in him. You want to help him. You can't. Rav Nachman tells you could. Look long enough, you'll see he has one good point. Take that good point, identify that as his essence. Everything else is circumstantial. Look at him that way, he'll change. He'll do tshuva. So that means that if no one's going to look at us that way, that we're good. And yeah, you could have a relationship with something and you could have questions and keep the relationship and let.
What do you say to people that, and I had it feels like there's similarities between our conversation and the one I had with Rabbi Yoni Fisher, Yeshiva Fishers. I don't know the name of his Yeshiva.
Fishers.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it has a name, but
yeah, but it's Fishers. So, did I even call you Weingots or no? No. But with him, I asked him this, and I'm curious what your take is. That, like, what do you do with the naysayers of maybe more of like old school kind of thinking of like, what you're saying is very nice, like tapping in and having a relationship, but like, no, that's not the way. Yiddishkeit, you're supposed to do everything because you have to. That's why, yeah, you want to understand. We don't understand a lot of things, but, you know, I think this like maybe vibe came after the Holocaust and very traumatic and just the way, you know, people survived back then. But like the mindset of everything you're saying now is nice, but come on, that's not realistic. You're just going to create fluffy type of guys and guys that are going to water things down. How do you respond to those naysayers? I ask because, not because I have these questions, but like I feel like I sometimes get into these conversations and I'm not good with arguments or conversations, but like you see it firsthand. So you know that why what you're saying is MS.
Listen, unfortunately, I pick up the guys in Yeshiva after that attitude. You know how many guys in Yeshiva I have that slept on benches for years? Kids here from Borough Park that their parents were sleeping on a bench. The right attitude, if you ask Rabbi Yoshiv alav shalom, or you ask the Gedolim at Tzadikim, like famous questions that, you know, when people had 7 or 8 kids, and one kid was going through a problem, and they went to Rabbi Yoshiv, and he told them, they asked if to send her out. So he told them to send out all the other 7, to farm them out to the cousins, and to take care of her. Man, oh man. The old approach of the strong is not it's not working. It's again, because it's not, the kid is not bad. He's not off the derech. He's searching for a derech. So why are you treating him like he's off? He's not off. He said the old approach is that you're off, you're bad. You're not off. You're searching. Like, don't you understand, if a kid is growing up today in the world and he's asking the right questions, like, he did not see a beautiful Yiddishkeit around him. No, he didn't. Not all of us saw. We're not living in a time where there's beautiful Yiddishkeit, where there's a lot of amazing things and shiurim and the yeshivas, but Yiddishkeit isn't deep galus. Deep. And kids see it. So help a kid go through his journey. Some kids find themselves when they're 20, when they're 30. Who knows what their journey is? As a parent, how do you have expectation of him that age 13 is in Yeshiva L'Mitzuyanim, at age 18 is like, he has his journey, he has his becoming. I speak with parents with a lot of pain sometimes after years and years of them going through this, and it's after they learn these lessons the hard way. I encourage mercy, rachmim. Rachmim, it's your child. Remember I spoke once to a father from Skver, or somewhere else, I don't remember. His daughter was going through something. He spoke for a long time on the phone. I tell him, well, did you ever tell your daughter you love her? He tells me no. She's 18 years old. Never. Like, spend time with her. Like, give them rachmanas, you know? These are kids. Kids are not bad. They're searching for a derech. They're good. Let's dan them l'kav schus. Let's look at a kid. Look how beautiful they are. So they have questions. Open up. You don't know the answers. Look for answers yourself. I don't know. Tell the kid, I don't know the answers. Let's have a relationship. It's okay. Don't make a gap. Don't make a fight. All these gaps, all these fights, eventually that's what pushes a person away. The Gemara says, Yetzer tinok veisha. Le'olam te'esmol docha yamin mekarevet. The Gemara says, it's 3, Yetzer, tinok, and ish. There's a relationship. Small docha yamin mekarevet. If I'm holding your small and your yamin, what am I doing? I'm dancing with you. I'm holding both your hands, right? Small yamin, small. We're dancing. It's a dance. It's a relationship. You can't. Could you tell Yetzer Hara no? No. We need the Yetzer Hara. When the Sanhedrin tried to cancel out the Yetzer Hara, there was no. The chicken, didn't have an egg. It's a relationship. We have to be in the relationship. So today, the kids, I look at the kids today. I grew up with a smartphone. I grew up with these nisyonis. I could look at a kid today and tell him that I'm better than him. Ma pitom. I know these challenges of growing up with craziness. I don't know these things. The stuff that my guys tell me, my hairs stand up from the nisyonis that my guys tell me already. I didn't have these nisyonis. It's a new world. So I trust that Hashem is amazing, Hashem is good, and Hashem loves his neshamas, and Hashem only puts neshamas through things that they can handle. And in this tough generation, I believe that Hashem sends the strongest neshamas to bring the light here. That's what all neshamas are doing, bring Or Hashem into the world. So to love them, to encourage them, to understand that Avodas Hashem is not black and white. It's not only what we understand. There's all kinds of things. We ask Hashem that our kids should be b'torah, b'avodah, b'chol melechas avodas habayre. Right? When you have me'irim esaylam, right? Torah masin tovim. That's very good. What else? Chol melechas avodas habayre. There's a lot of avodas Hashem. Mm-hmm. All kinds of work. Kid could be all kinds of things. Give him a relationship. Give him trust. Give him greatness. Show him that he's good, that you love him, that you believe in him. Take you know how many times it's so hard. I sit with my wife sometimes. We do this at night. Mama, it's very hard to do. One of our kids will go through a hard day with him. At the end, it's like you just want to sit and vent about how hard it was. And I tell this to my wife, sometimes like, Gavald, if we're not going to have Rachmanas on him, who will? Who will? He's annoying to his teacher. If he's annoying to us, let's look at some good in him. Let's see kapschus in him. Let's see the good in him. And if not, what chance does he have?
That's really beautiful. We will be right back this week's episode, but quickly, I just want to tell you all about the crazy thing happening to the Jewish world. And by the way, my personal news, you will hear or you will see, if you're listening to this, I don't know if whatever, but you'll see what I am talking about later. But Dr. Shlomo Zimmerman came on That's an Issue, and he blew us away. We had him on more than a year ago, and then we said, okay, we got to make a whole show with you, which is in the works. But in the meantime, we brought him on to talk about puberty and how people's bodies change, particularly boys, and the difficult conversations parents have to have with their children that most parents don't have, and the importance of it and how to do it. Well, Dr. Z does it all and explains it very well in his book, From Boys to Men, which you could buy on livinglechaim.com. Well, we have it interesting. If you give an $18 donation towards Living L'Chaim, we will send you a free book. That's free shipping, and you will get the book for free. You go to livinglechaim.com/Dr. Z. To be honest, we've had an outpouring of people buying the book, and so many people have been loving the book. Thank you so much for all the comments. And so many people are like, I didn't get my book yet. Well, yeah, that's because we ran out of books. Don't worry. We actually got more books. So a lot more is in stock now. Go to livinglechaim.com/Dr. Z. Give an $18 donation towards Living L'Chaim, which honestly, we just take that money and pump it up so we could buy more books at the best rate possible. This book will change your life. This book will have you maybe a little upset that your parents didn't have the talk with you, or even if they did, they probably didn't have it in the way that Dr. Z just goes over it so well, so meticulously. Even if you have young kids, I personally, I don't think this book is relevant for me for the next few years, but you know what? I read it and I'm like, whoa, this is just so smart. Just for me personally, understanding how the Torah's approach to the bedroom and puberty and just the holy approach that we have coming from a world-class psychologist. And I could call him my friend at this point. I think I could. I still call him Dr. Z. But he's incredible. So go ahead and pick up your copy of the book. Link in the show notes. Now back to this week's episode and my announcement coming up at the very end of this episode. Okay, so you mentioned something before that I want to ask you about, because the whole concept, the whole idea of Living L'Chaim, this network that we have, is the fact that I don't really talk about this much, but it is like the whole goal of, what we're doing here. We have a mission, but I personally felt growing up, and I had great parents. I love my parents. My mother and father listen to this podcast. Hi, mommy and daddy. But I, growing up, at a certain point, I was in Eretz-Yisrael, and I just felt unhappy, very unhappy. And there was something very missing for me from Yiddishkeit, and it was just doing things because I wanted to, not because I was forced to. And once I learned that and I realized that, and I infused basically happiness into Yiddishkeit, it was like, whoa, this is it was a different religion, So I'm curious for you. You mentioned before of Yiddishkeit is about having fun, and I feel like that's a phrase that I don't know if I've ever heard that phrase. So can you explain what that means and how we could do that properly?
So it's interesting that Arizal, who reached unbelievable levels, really, of Tanoim and Amoraim, Chaim Vital writes about him, his main student, that the reason he was Zoichet Oz Madregas is because of Simcha Shel Mitzvah. There's a concept called Simcha Shel Mitzvah. Being happiness with the mitzvah. Being in happiness with the mitzvah that I do. And it's written in Shar Kavanas that the Arizal writes that a person should be happy with every mitzvah more than if he wins all the money and silver in the world. And this is mamash something he was mekayim in himself. So let's understand this. What is Simcha Shel Mitzvah? So that means that throughout my life, let's say today, how many activities are we doing today? Thousands, I don't know. But Baruch Hashem, we do mitzvahs. I put on tefillin, I daven shachris this morning, said a bracha on the tea. So I understand that from my involvement in this world, I'm here, I have to be here. I have a choice of connecting to anything and building relationships with anything in this world. This is my bechira right now. I am choosing to believe in the creator of the world, Yud Kei Vav Kei, the giver of the Torah. I believe that his way of life that he gave us is the way of life, the Chaim, Eitz Chaim. And I know that there's nothing more, there's no other benefit for me during this life. The only gain is becoming one with him and similar with him and gaining in my relationship with him. Any other gain is insignificant to me. Meaning right now, if I just now win the lottery, fantastic, it'll be gewalt. But Lamaisa, what's significant? Nothing happened to me. But if I right now made a decision that during an argument with my wife, I'm not going to answer her, and I'm going to control myself, and I'm going to do this because this is how Hashem wants a yid to behave, I could at that point allow my emotions to feel a tremendous happiness of my relationship with Hashem, or at anything, or at any mitzvah, or at any tefillah. Meaning that when I give my emotions permission and tell them it's okay to be this, that means this is the most important thing in life. There's nothing else, and this is where my happiness is. The more I'm mitbonen in this, the more I allow myself to actually feel joy when I'm living the most meaningful relationship of my life, when I'm involved in it, because it's real. And then that's the real way to have joy and fun in a mature way, and that's the real way to fight the Yetzer Hara. Because otherwise, there's many other relationships in the world that could tempt me. I'm surrounded with people that are involved in all kinds of relationships. But again, the only counter to a relationship is a relationship.
Hold on, let me break that. And the only counter to a relationship
is a relationship. So investing in putting my happiness in saying I have a relationship with the King of the world, the Creator of the world, and it's real. I'm listening to him. I'm in tune with him. I'm obeying my thoughts, my actions. It's very real, very real. And this is why I was created. As a matter of fact, if I had made $10 million today, it would not make any difference at all in the overscope of what I am. At all, nothing. But if I did a mitzvah today, it would actually change the entire ratio of what I am and what the worlds are. The relationship of man and creator and creation. And I'm allowing myself to feel joy, tremendous joy, knowing that there's such a relationship being involved. Ashreinu matov chalkeinu, ma noem goraleinu, ma yafa ma'od yerushateinu. It's a Yerusha. It's an inheritance. A person is born into some great inheritance. Lucky him. Enjoy it. So putting my mind there and really putting my mind that this is the primal relationship in my life. Yiddishkeit is not just a bunch of random things. It's just something, it's unison. It's something going on here. This allows me to put my happiness in the right place, my emotions in the right place. As a matter of fact, all the curses in the world, when it's in the Parshas Kisavai, when it says there's not horrible curses that will happen if Chas Shalom you don't keep the Torah mitzvah. So it says at the end, Tachat asher lo avadat et Hashem Elokecha b'simcha u'b'tuv levav berov kol. Why we get all these curses? Because you didn't serve misimcha, because you didn't serve Hashem with happiness. And obviously, the Mefarshim Hashem asks, like, what do you mean? If the guy did the mitzvahs, you know what? If he didn't do the mitzvahs, so what? He did them without happiness. So the Arizal says, what's the oimek in this? It says, Tachat asher lo avadat et Hashem Elokecha. What Tachat means instead of, Ayin Tachat Ayin. That means that everyone is happy. Everyone has relationships. Everyone has love. Everyone has joy. Everyone has fun. From what? If you don't get it from your relationship with God, you could be doing all the mitzvahs. But where is your love? Where are your emotions? What are you excited from? Where is the tachat over there? That's the main place. So that we have to take that place of emotion, that real place of emotion, of fun, mamish, of meaning, of living a meaningful life, and connect the dots. Wait, if this is life and this is it, then taka. And put the happiness back where it should be.
Okay, really beautiful. Really, really beautiful. Okay, towards the end of the interviews, I like to ask everyone similar questions. Out of the 613 mitzvahs, which mitzvah do you feel a little more connected to than the others right now?
Avat Yisrael.
Why that?
I feel that, first of all, the klal gadol b'Torah, it's clear that that's the whole Torah. But I feel like in our generation, like just before, we spoke before about the necessity to understand depth of godliness. It's also important, there's a necessity to understand the depth of Avat Yisrael. Not like, hey, I love you, hug, kiss. It's also Gewalt, like here's food. It's Gewalt. All this is Gewalt. External chesed is Gewalt, Kodesh Kodashim. But the real avodah, if you learn Tanya, Perek Lamed Beis, Kedai Mamish, every year has to know this Perek is tremendous. To really like, is it realistic? Like, like, come on. I love you like me, like every stranger. To really get to the oimek of this is a beautiful mitzvah that has to do with, the depth of it has to do with understanding that everything is godliness. So therefore it's a total, it's an inclusive mitzvah because you're getting to see the godliness in all your human relationships and treat everyone in a godly way.
Okay, that's a way more practical way of doing it, because then if the person comes from Hashem and they're part of Hashem, then and Hashem's perfect. And
well, also it's you. What about you do love? If you love your body, you're out of the question. You can't love nobody. Your body is a separate. It's only once you love your identity.
Oh, you're saying part of it is yourself.
It's know your identity. If you're a soldier in the army and your identity is a soldier, you're missing the point. The identity is the battle. Identity is the army. So the V'ahavta L'recha Kamecha is really a deep question in identity. Are you looking at yourself in a selfish way as just you? It's very deep. It's a very deep. Or are you understanding that you're a klal or are you a prat? Do you understand that you're a klal? You understand you're Am Yisrael? If you are, then what's enough kamina, me, you? We need, godliness has to come into the world. You're bringing in Tzfat, I'll bring in godliness.
Wow.
You know, I heard a story of Rabbi Wanga, Allah Shalom, years ago. They came to him, Arachim, came to him years ago, and they told him something about that, that they opened a branch for Israelis, and this, and they were telling him. He took out a check. I think it was $600,000 at the time. He wrote them a check. His guys were going nuts. Like, what? What are you giving another organization? He said, listen, I'm here to heal the world, to bring light to the world. These people are they're my partners. They're not competition. We're here to bring light to the world. What's the difference?
Wow. That's incredible. If there's one person from history that you could spend an hour with,
oof,
who would you spend that hour with? I feel like you would be like myself. But,
no.
No.
I would go with Adam Rishon.
Really?
Yeah.
Why Adam Rishon?
Because first of all, 1 hour by him is like, if you look at the Gemara, the first day that he was created, every hour was like, but he included the entire humanity in him. And Adam is really, Adam David Mashiach, Aleph Daled Mem, it's really the same neshama, because Adam gave 70 years to David, which is, Adam is kind of like the total. It's not just Adam, it's man.
Right. Right. So what would you discuss with him?
I would just look at him. I don't know, whatever he was, I don't know. I didn't think about it, but Pachad Pchadim,
right.
You know, the Gra says that he can imagine, he writes that he can imagine the level of an Amira, I think it is. But he cannot imagine the level of a Pashat Yid that lived at the time of the Beis HaMikdash. Meaning, the nation was on such a level when it's not just like, oh, he's a tzaddik and no, there's levels that we can't imagine, because that only certain generational truths and purity allows to such unbelievable levels to be.
When's the last time someone did a chesed for you, or you did a chesed for someone else that really made an impact in the world?
Oh, in the world or in my world?
In your world, yeah. It's
people do chesed all the time. This morning, Akiva Radbard, one of my favorite guys, picked me up from the airport from Newark. Am Yisrael is amazing. This chesed is nonstop. You know, we're just, the whole Shabbos, we were learning the book of Rav Shaila. Olam chesed yibaneh. if I would say one thing about kindness, I think that, so it's very good to do like big acts of kindness, like to open gemars and to give loans, gewalt. I think what's more important is to focus on the tiny acts of kindness that you could do on a daily basis that will make the biggest difference, like saying good morning to someone, smiling to someone, listening to someone when they have something interesting or not interesting to say, replying to someone's thing. Like those things are essential. Like when someone writes something, a poetry or something, it's not poetry that he wants. Is there someone hugging me? Is there someone that's listening to my genius? Is there someone that's appreciating what I am? And just giving them those 2 minutes, mamish, of quality time, of like present, of being with them and listening, is tremendous chesed. That in our generation could even save lives. Mamish.
For someone, listening or watching this podcast, and we'll end with this, that sees you and they're like, okay, I get it. You had your journey and you deal with guys now on their journey. But at the end of the day, you have a long beard, you have long payas, you're obviously very connected, you're saying a lot of, beautiful parts of the Torah, but they themselves, they feel like so gone, or a parent of a child that feels so gone. What advice, that's how they feel. What advice would you give to them?
I would say to drop all expectations of whatever's in your mind and hug and embrace the reality. Say, Creator of the world, I trust that you are the reality. Give me the strength to love what you're doing with me, to handle this with the best, and to have the patience to see the outcome, because these processes are long. I have parents that call me sometimes when their kid is 16 and I tell them take a deep breath till he's 20. And malasot, the teenagers, there's not too much to talk to. A lot of love, dropping the expectations, and just being happy with Hashem and understanding that these kids are beautiful and the shamas are beautiful, and the becoming today is tricky. It's not what it wasn't. It's not like cookie cutter what it used to be. It's not. It's very tricky, and you never know which beautiful surprise your kid is going to be. Like I'm telling you, the kids that gave the toughest. And I have kids that come from big families, and they gave the toughest time to their parents. When they come back, they are the nachas of the entire family. The entire family. They're the ones that inspire the parents at the end. They're the ones that give the chizuk. And then when the other ones fall up, they're the ones. It's be mature. Be mature and understand there's a process there. Don't be immature and like want it right now. Be mature and understand that Hashem is running the world. Hashem is bringing in the neshamas. Have patience for him. Develop a relationship with the kid, and arbe savlanut. And yiratzon that you'll get to see it all turn in your life.
Beautiful. Rabbi Wanga from Weingot's Yeshiva. Thank you very much for coming in and having this conversation.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for watching or listening to this week's episode. And go ahead and support our supporters. Go ahead and check out the Good Faith Effort podcast. Go ahead and pick up your copy of Dr. Z's incredible book. And I don't know if you've noticed this yet. If you're listening, you definitely didn't notice. If you're watching this, you definitely did notice. My personal news is I partnered up with Twillory. They're amazing. Use promo code INSPIRE. This is not a joke. For $18 off when you go to Twillory.com. They have the best polo shirts, the best pants, the best blazers. My favorite clothing company by far. $18 off. You spend over $139. You got to be a new customer. You should go there and support our supporters. But they're not even an advertiser on this particular episode. I just love them so much. That's a big change in my life. Another big change is I shaved. Since my daughter's been born, I don't think I fully shaved or actually shaved. She was born in March. This has been the longest I've gone with a beard. And I have two bosses, my mother and my wife. My mother always wants me without a beard, but she's biased. She knew me without a beard. My wife was cool with the beard, but it was getting to the point where I was more beard than me, which whatever that means. And listen, I think in life, you got to always pick your battles. If you got this far in the episode, go ahead and let me know in the bottom if you prefer Yaakov Langer with a beard or without a beard. And also, if that's too weird for you, you could use the code word EPIC, EPIC, so I know that you got this far. Reply to every single comment, like every comment. Means a lot. Rate us 5 stars on Apple or Spotify, and Try to be like Rabbi Wanga. Try to find yourself. And once you do, try to help others. That is the message for this week. Keep on being inspiring. We've got incredible guests coming up with beardless Yaakov Linger. L'chaim.
Living L'chaim.